Hey Mitchell, here's another book for you. I found my Curious George book, and it's by H.A. Ray. I really like Curious George. Let's see if I can get past. There's a bunch of cover sheets in here, or starter sheets. Let's see. Uh-oh, there's Curious George. Hey Lindy, we're babysitting someone's dog for a little bit today. Curious George by H.A. Ray. Hang on a second, I gotta give this puppy dog a treat. And she's barking. Come here, Lindy. I'm gonna read a story. Okay, here we go. This is George, and he lived in Africa. He was very happy, but he had one fault. He was too curious. Looks like he's eating bananas. One day, George saw a man. He had on a large yellow straw hat. The man saw George, too. What a nice little monkey, he thought. I would like to take him home with me. He put his hat on the ground, and of course, George was curious. He came down from the tree to look at the large yellow hat. The hat had been on the man's head. George thought it would be nice to have it on his own head. He picked it up and put it on. He does look kind of happy, doesn't he? The hat covered George's head. He couldn't see. The man picked him up quickly and popped him into a bag. George was caught. Uh-oh, look at the surprise on his face. The man with the big yellow hat put George into a little boat, and a sailor rowed them both across the water to a big ship. George was sad, but he was still a little curious. See the fish in the water? On the big ship, things began to happen. The man took off the bag. George sat on a little stool, and the man said, George, I'm going to take you to a big zoo in a big city. You will like it there. Now run along and play, but don't get into trouble. George promised to be good, but it is easy for little monkeys to forget. You see the little portal, and he's got his cameras and stuff there? That's kind of cute. On the deck, he found some seagulls. He wondered how they could fly. He was very curious. Finally, he had to try. It looked easy, but... I wonder what's going to happen to George. Oh, what happened? First this, and then this. George. Where is George? The sailors looked and looked. At last they saw him struggling in the water and almost all tired out. Man overboard, the sailors cried as they threw him a lifebelt. George caught it and held on. At last he was safe on board. Looks like he was spitting out some water there. After that, George was more careful to be a good monkey, until at last the long trip was over. George said goodbye to the kind sailors, and he and the man with the yellow hat walked off the ship onto the shore and on into the city to the man's house. See, they've got all their gear and everything. Looks like George has a little container of his, like a little suitcase of his own. After a good meal and a good pipe, George felt very tired. So he's got his jammies on. He crawled into bed and fell asleep at once. Oh yeah, there's his little bag. The next morning, the man telephoned the zoo. George watched him. He was fascinated. Then the man went away. George was curious. He wanted to telephone too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What fun. See, there's all the stuff he was doing. Ding-a-ling-a-ling! George had telephoned the fire station. The firemen rushed to the telephone. Hello, hello, they said, but there was no answer. Then they looked for the signal on the big map that showed where the telephone call had come from. See, it's over there. They didn't know it was George. They thought it was a real fire. Uh-oh, let's see what happens. Let's see, can't get that to turn. Hurry, hurry, hurry! The firemen jumped onto the fire engines and onto the hook and ladders. Ding, dong, everyone out of the way! Hurry, hurry, hurry! Ding, 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 ding. rushing to the fire. The firemen rushed into the house. They opened the door. No fire. Only a naughty little monkey. Oh, catch him, they cried. George tried to run away. He almost did, but he got caught in the telephone wire. And look at the picture. There's the telephone wire. A thin fireman caught one arm, and a fat fireman caught the other. You fooled the fire department, they said. We will have to shut you up where you can't do more harm. They took him away and shut him into a prison. Poor George. George wanted to get out. He climbed up to the window to try the bars. Just then the watchman came in. He got on the wooden bed to catch George, but he was too big and heavy. The bed tipped over and the watchman fell over, and quick as lightning, George ran out through the open door. You see it? There he goes. He hurried through the building and out onto the roof, and then he was lucky to be a monkey. Out he walked onto the telephone wires. Quickly and quietly over the guard's head, there's the guard, George walked away. He was free. Look what's up on top. Kitty cat. Down in the street, outside the prison wall, stood a balloon man. A little girl bought a balloon for her brother. George watched. He was curious again. He felt he must have a bright red balloon. He reached over and tried to help himself. See him up there? But what do you think's going to happen, Mitchell? Instead of one balloon, he got the whole bunch broke loose, and in an instant, the wind whisked them all away, and with them went George, holding tight with both hands. Uh-oh, there he goes, and there's the little kids wanting a balloon, and there's the man thinking, what? Where are my balloons going? Up he sailed higher and higher. The houses looked like toy houses, and the people like dolls. George was frightened. He held on very tight. See everything in the city down there? It's kind of neat looking, isn't it? There's a horse pulling a carriage. At first, the wind blew in great gusts. Then it quieted. Finally, it stopped blowing altogether. George was very tired. Down he went, bump, on to the top of a traffic light. Everyone was surprised. The traffic got all mixed up. George didn't know what to do, and then he heard someone call, George! He looked down and saw his friend, the man with the big yellow hat. Can you find him in the picture, Mitchell? You see all the people looking, even the horse? Yep, there he is, the man with the yellow hat. Look, there's a little Scotty dog, too. George was very happy. The man was happy, too. George slid down the post, and the man with the big yellow hat put him under his arm. Then he paid the balloon man for all the balloons. And then George and the man climbed into the car, and at last away they went. There they go. See them? Even those little kids will look happy now. To the zoo. What a nice place for George to live. There he is at the zoo. See lots of animals. I see turtles and frogs and penguins and flamingos and camels and elephants and brown bears and polar bears and zebras and kangaroos and tigers and giraffes and lions and looks like ostriches and a rhinoceros. My goodness, there's a bunch of animals. And of course, there's George. The end. I don't think there's any other pictures.